So Paul was happy enough to come back again to answer more questions and have some fun on stream. This is going to be in 2 parts because this is a super long interview. He did a lot of questions. So if you want to see another half of this, make sure you subscribe and like the video. The main idea of this is going to be some kind of podcast. There's just some random gameplay in the background. So if you want to pay attention to the game, go for it. But I think a lot of people are just going to be here to listen. He says a lot of awesome stuff about future mercs, general balance things you should be listening to. So make sure you pay attention to that. You look fantastic.
I'm a doctor.
Again, you know, any questions that is more towards like announcement type of things, you know, we tend to want to go through official channels and actually do announcements, but
for sure.
Yeah, but
yeah, so
I'll try to be as honest and clear as possible.
First question, what are the 10 mercs you're releasing for this expansion?
Okay. Let's see. There's that, and then there's that. Oh, and there's that.
Okay.
I'm actually looking at the list.
Yo, dude,
right now.
do this. Do us.
And I'm like, okay, let's see. I'll just say, hey, which abilities are interesting?
Oh.
Okay, that ability is interesting. That ability is interesting.
Could you?
So what's cool here is, I guess that's not true. Oh, interesting. Huh. Cool.
Wow. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Okay. Real question. Let's start with real ones.
Yeah.
Can Howl of Terror from Manoroth with Fell Enhanced Lungs please be a Fell ability? What is it now?
Is it a Fell ability? Someone screaming? I mean, you can make the argument, but I guess the argument is with the equipment because it's Fell Enhanced that it should be Fell. Yeah,
they are making
I'll bring it to the design table because Fell, you know, doesn't have too much support, so it's probably not too crazy to add, you know, Fell and Howl of Terror. You know, when we added nature to Mukla's ability, you know, that changed the metagame. Just like, oh, right, now you can actually run. So, you know, small changes like that can have pretty big impacts. Yeah, so I totally see the argument because the name is Fell Enhanced Lungs, that it should be Fell powered. Right, if you are Fell Enhanced, doesn't mean like, you know, your punches are Fell, right? Like, so
that's true.
I'll bring it to the design team and see how they feel about it. I'm totally open it. I don't think it's gonna have like a crazy impact because it's only you're giving up the equipment. I think, you know, Pit Store the staff with the extra health is really good. So it probably won't change, but it might just be a feels nice type of thing. Yeah, I'll bring it to the design team. We'll talk about it and see if that makes sense.
Okay. What are your thoughts about an unranked mode to try stuff out?
So it's weird. I was on Dallas's stream late last night or early this morning, I guess, depending on your time zone. Yeah, I'm curious what people feel like because like we have casual in standard Hearthstone, right? Yeah. And when you play casual, you're like, hey, I just want to go play fun decks. And kind of like mess around and get away from the meta decks. And, you know, every time I've queued in, every time I've seen one queued in casual, what do you play against? You play against other meta decks, right? And so if the goal is to like, hey, I want to play in a place where I can practice and not lose MMR, I think there's a better system for that, to do that, right? If it's a place to be like, hey, I want to not play against like Cam Diablo, I want to play against, you know, different things, more wild stuff, like stuff that we might be trying later, or like how we were playing earlier in the week when I was on stream. You know, that probably won't come true because no matter where you go, people are going to try to win. And so you're never going to escape the meta. And if the goal is to, hey, I want a place to practice without losing MMR, there's probably other few systems that we can do to make that better.
Yeah.
Let
me make a counter argument for this. Rather than having an unranked mode, have you guys considered adding another floor for MMR?
Yes. Okay.
Is that something the team is leading towards? Because the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I guess the system is brought down from Battlegrounds, I would imagine. Because Battlegrounds, I think you're the lowest you can go after 6K is 6K, right? That's the floor. But with Battlegrounds, because you're finding your win condition in the game, it's much easier to just try random stuff out and what you're given to, right? But with Mercenaries, because you're going in with a lineup, the floor at 6,000 is very sad just because testing is really hard without just risking your MMR. So
Yeah, but I guess the question is that just kicking the can down the road? Like, does that change anything? Like, let's say the floor becomes like, I don't know, 8K or something, right? And then now you're sitting at 10K rating. Like, is the 8K floor really going to change anything?
I think so. Like, I'm gonna compare it more to standard than I am to battlegrounds, right? Like standard, you have like now the old system was way worse. It was just like rank 5, and then that was it, and then you had to go all the way to legend. Now it's like diamond 5, and then once you hit legend, you don't have to worry about, right? Like, I am a very specific circumstance. But like, let's say whatever the legend happens to be for mercenaries, it'd be nice once I got there to try random stuff out rather than just being like, oh, I'm going to ruin my rank because of this. Because in legend,
I guess the delta here is the right floor and the highest rank reward, right? And I guess the feeling here is that gap is too wide. So like, if there's a lot of space in between there. So there's a lot of space between moving up and down. But yeah, like I said, this is something we are talking about to add another rank floor.
Okay, awesome. That's really nice. Okay. Are there any ideas for Millhouse buffs or anything discussed?
Millhouse buffs.
So
yeah, I think Millhouse Arcane package is something that wasn't touched in this balance patch. So one of the things we had was like we actually had tons more changes for the balance things, but we didn't pull the trigger on all of them. One for kind of like, hey, production reasons, and the other was more, hey, let's not go overboard. Let's do a little bit, see how things shake up, and then see where we add more. You'll notice that certain groups didn't get in touch. Certain synergies didn't get touched. You can take that as a hint of things to come, because we're like, hey, we don't know what will happen in the future with these things just yet. And so we don't want to overshoot on some of these characters that might start to see play, and then, and then things come a little too overtuned. So I'll just say that.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I think at least for me, I was actually really surprised you guys didn't buff Millhouse. He just seems so weak, I guess. But then
it's weird. So internally, Millhouse was actually one of our best rampers, because Manoroth didn't have the +1 cooldown thing.
Yeah.
So he was the only one that could ramp like +7 every turn.
So
and he has a 4-speed AoE that just blows things up. And so he's in a very glass cannon space.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, you make a good point.
Yeah. But Millhouse was one of our targets that we were like, hey, we would like to do that. But I think Millhouse was a symptom of like, hey, I don't think we want to buff casters right now. At the time when we were talking about it, it was a pretty caster heavy meta. So it's like, oh, yes, he's underutilized, but in terms of like the meta space, it didn't really make sense to give him more. And we would have to give him quite a bit for him to compete, because there isn't that much arcane synergy. And so he would have to be strong as a solo character. And then, then he becomes forever strong as a solo character. I think there's a space for him where we talked about, hey, maybe we want him to be like a backline character and buff greater arcane missiles as, hey, you come off the bench and you get to blow up reds. But we felt like Brucon, Blink Fox was already in that space and probably didn't need anyone. So yeah, we decided like, okay, let's just wait and see how things play out and see what we want to do with Millhouse.
Okay. I'm trying to read this. So for the next balance patch, because I think based on what you said that you guys were still planning on doing something potentially, I'm guessing that's going to be after the new Mercenaries release.
Yeah, I think we'll wait until how that plays out. I mean, the metas right now, at least right now, is still pretty volatile, and I suspect that the characters that are coming out next patch will have a pretty big impact, and will shift things around again. And and things take. I mean, even like Mercenaries, I think one of the things is like the meta has been shifting so much, right? If you look back, it was like, hey, it was BTX, and then it was Vol'jin, and then it was Varden, and then it was Lich King, and then it was Nature, and then it was Shadow again, and then it was Nature, and then like Orcs started popping up, and and Cookie like changed everything. It actually keeps going, and so like we're not too we don't feel like there's actually too much reason to really change things right now. I think we just wanted to see some other characters see play think the biggest thing is probably like Karen Diablo and like providing more backline options and being stronger. Because like, you know, everyone talks about like, hey, we should like tone down Karen Diablo, and if you don't have Karen Diablo, you're just gonna have something else. You know, it's probably the shadow package. It might be the nature package. It might be just solo Anduins, right? And those are kind of characters that are right. And so like, you know, I think one of the things is like there's always going to be a best team because that's how people play. At least like the people that are talking and want changes. And so yeah, and so it's one of the things as designers is like you know that's going to happen, and it's like okay, which would you rather have? Would you have someone that is like Anduin that like slowly runs away with the game and there isn't anything, or something like Karen Diablo where it's always the same, but you look at all the different middle game and end game states, it's not solved, right? It's like, oh, no one really knows how to play. Like, you know, just like I was watching earlier your game, just like, oh, the kind of the interactions between the Karen reincarnation and the speed control. It's just like, it's actually like, there's still a lot going on there. It isn't like, you know, okay, well, he put down Anduin first, he ramped, and game's over. Stuff like that.
Yeah, so, yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Okay. Speaking of new mercenaries, because you kind of brought it up, could you confirm?
I kind of brought it up.
Could you confirm how many mercenaries you guys were releasing, or is that a thing you want to keep secret as well?
I need to circle back with the community team to make sure that I fully understand their release plan, so I don't take away any thunder that is planned. This falls into like, hey, this is more of an announcement type of thing. As much as I honestly, I want to get that info out there as soon as possible because I think these mercs are really, really interesting, and there's a lot to talk about. And one of my, favorite things is to review mercs and their abilities, and then have people theory craft and be like, we didn't think about that. Should we change it? Or more often than not, okay, everyone's totally misreading this. They're totally wrong. Because that's how it was like with Diablo, right? Everyone's like, oh, they nerfed Diablo. He's still like B tier, and we're just like, okay.
Yeah.
We're just like, so that part's always fun to me. It's more tongue in cheek. But yeah, I would like to review this term. So I'm trying to get into contact with anyone I can, since we're not technically working this week, to see what the schedule is and see like, okay, what can I review? What doesn't hurt? So yeah.
Okay. One more question about new mercs. Are they going to be released when the expansion is released?
So this is sort of part of an announcement. I was thinking about like what I want to say here. I will say that it's a two-parter. Yeah. So there will be
two-parters.
Some at patch and then some at expansion launch.
Oh. Okay. All right. That's exciting. So we're not getting them all at once then, is basically what you're saying. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's more because of the mechanism of stuff, but I feel like I'm maybe talking too much.
Okay,
so
all right. Yeah. Don't get in trouble.
Leave it at. I'll leave. I don't think anything I say gets me in trouble. I think like if I say something, they'll run with it. It's just more about like, hey, trying to be respectful to all the stuff that they plan and the stuff that they're doing. To make sure that I don't make their lives harder, right? Just being respectful to my colleagues,
for
and
sure,
my friends, because I mean, I'm sure I'm in the position where I can say, what I want, and be just like, okay, well, they'll run with it, right? So I don't really feel like I'll get in trouble or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. So we already asked you what your favorite merc is, but here's an interesting question. At release, who did you think the best mercenary was going to be?
Diablo.
Oh. Wow, you're actually a prophet.
I mean, well, like the playtester played a lot, and so we had a really good sense of.
Wait, was Karen Diablo in the?
Yeah, Karen Diablo.
Yeah,
Karen Diablo was the strongest. We also felt that Playing Fox was much stronger, so that one was like maybe wrong. It does see play in some teams, and it's weird because I thought pre-cookie it would see much more play, but I actually saw more play post-cookie, and I think people started moving away from 10th Tail into Manoroth.
Yeah.
Or not Manoroth, I'm looking at your screen. Manoroths.
Yeah. But that might be like a symptom of just the 10th Tail being bugged though, right?
Yes, I think that was partly that. I mean, internally we ran both, right? Depending on the lineup. But I think like we knew the power of Karen Diablo. So we just knew that Blink Fox gave you another reset on that and kind of blew out the game. But 10 Tail allowed you to steal games that you sometimes couldn't win. Because we knew that Ragnaros and Brukan were also a thing. And so it's just like, hey, cool, you steal, if they Ragnaros and try to counter Diablo, 10 Tail gets to counter, and swing back. So those things, we play tested quite a bit internally with, the starting set. And so we felt pretty comfortable knowing what was good. Were you in the content creators thing?
That's how we met.
And so like the decks that we gave everyone, they turned out to be pretty meta comps.
Yeah, you guys did a good job. Like, right? You guys really did.
And so like, it was just
well, so fun fact about that, when we played before the release of Mercenaries, you got me all excited about Illidan. I was all excited because I even tried him on the build before you guys nerfed him. So I was like, oh my god, I'm leveling up Illidan day one. Paul, Illidan was not good day one. Yeah.
Illidan was good because Blessing of Kings was 1 cooldown. And Cornelius had 0 cooldown taunt and 2 speed BOS. And he had better stat. Like Illidan actually ran away with a lot of games where it was just like, one of the things we try to avoid is teams or comps that kind of start and blow up the game. I think there's a few in there right now. Like Anduin can sometimes run away the game. Although people have kind of figured out to be like, hey, I can just let Anduin live, clear out the rest of the board, and if I 2v1 or 3v1 Anduin, I can take down 200 health, right? Or even like, I don't know if you saw, but Team America was like, he soloed like a 200 health Anduin with the 50 health Eudora, just like through cannon play, right? Just like,
so that's a good segue to the next question. Out of the 5 new mercenaries, who did you think was going to be the best?
The 5 pirates?
Yeah, if you say Cookie, go to the next one.
Cookie, Eudora was a mixed bag for us. We actually thought, it was those 2. We knew Smite was in the meme world. We were like, hey, there's some like weird shenanigans you can do with Overboard, but you can totally outplay that. But I think everyone has been hit with the Overboard once. Of like, it's like, okay, well, I didn't think about that. Or when you do outplay it, you're like, whoa, wait, he can still attack in and trigger damage, or do something like Sour Fang and force it anyways. So that part's been interesting. We knew Edwin wasn't quite up to par. That was for sure. Sneeds was man. I think we had different goals with Sneeds. I think I would want to change Sneeds a little bit. I think there's some interesting stuff going on there, and
I think someone told
me
there was a bug. If you did not know, I think there's a small. I think if you have extra blades, but he's on the bench, it cancels.
Oh, it cools down. Yeah, it counts. It counts down on bench. Yeah, that's a bug.
Was okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to was Baron getting Diablo better, or like really good in playtesting? That's why they were initially nerfed for Baron, at least.
Yeah, I think like Baron was another activator for Diablo, right? I think Baron originally was 3 speed faster, and just like, okay, well now you just get the song, right? So that was changed, but also like the Baron still is pretty strong with his fire infernal. And so, we took it a notch. Maybe we went a little too overboard with fire. But, we have to look at like some of the spaces that we know will be more common, right? Fire will be more common. Orcs and humans are going to be more common as, whatever mercs we release in the future. Yeah. There's always going to be like some of our key iconic characters tend to fall in those spaces, right? And so like we always know that there's always going to be a bunch of those types of abilities. So, we didn't want to like jump make it too strong right out the gate, because then it just limits our design space in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Are you guys thinking about doing like a Hall of Fame at some point, or are you guys just going to let all the mercenaries run free? Always.
I think one of the fun things about this is the combinatorics of things getting more and more.
Oh, that's okay. Nice.
There's more right, more and more possibilities going on. I don't think there is really a plan to. I mean, that's not something we really talked about. Like, we're just like, hey, that's probably something we should talk about in the future. If we think anything should be a problem, we really need to shake things up. But really, that's like a 2-3 year type of problem. And so we didn't really spend too much energy talking about how we would do it or if we should even do it. Just like, hey, there might be a world where we might have to do it, but I don't know. I feel like one of the fun things about Mercenaries is like, oh, all the different team comps you can make as the roster grows and grows, right?
Yeah. I'm actually really glad that you're not doing a Hall of Fame.